I'd like to, our next session is better security, better safety, better beef. And John Hill is back again from Landwatch Australia. He's been a great supporter of the NTCA conference over a number of years. I've given him a stud bull name too, so he doesn't escape. John is NTCA gatekeeper. He is the horned security guard of the paddock, checking IDs at the trough, patrolling every fence line. He's checking every visitor and shutting down trouble before it even thinks about stepping foot onto the property. Welcome, John.
Thanks very much, I like it. G'day guys, how you doing? I'm John with Landwatch. I had a bit of a presentation prepared, but in light of some recent events in terms of world wars that are happening, I'm going to mix it up a little bit because we've got some more important things to talk about. Guys, what we do is we provide security cameras to keep an eye on things. Now, generally it's keeping an eye on what's going on. Kids got dropped off at the school bus, mother-in-law came in, so quick, look busy and pack up. Or something that's going on. But at the moment, it seems that we've got some big things to talk about in regards to fuel. Now, some reports that we hear are that there is no fuel problem, and if you believe Albo, which we all do, then that's true. We're all safe, nothing to worry about. Albo's got us covered. Thanks, Albo. But really, if we're getting serious about it, I'm a little bit worried about the whole fuel situation, mainly because it's hard enough to get fuel in some of these areas out here anyway, let alone when the price is going through the roof. So I just want to have a quick show of hands around the room. If you are in charge of a station, work on a station, live on a station, anyone like that in the room still? Good, there's a few people here. So what we know for sure is that you've got fuel sitting on your property right now. I know that, you know that, everyone around you, every other station nearby has fuel on your property as well, on their property as well. The problem is that every media report at the moment is talking about who has all the fuel in the country. And every single one of them is saying that it's the farmers that have all the fuel because they need it, rightly so, 100%. If farmers don't have fuel, we don't eat. If some latte sipping fella in Melbourne doesn't have fuel, well, he doesn't get to his latte on time. Doesn't really matter. So it's more important that the farmers have fuel, 100%, but that also is just going around telling everyone that that's where the fuel is. So what I want to say is that it's up to you to make sure that fuel you have is 100% protected. If you heard a story on the news that a shopping centre in Katherine just got robbed and they didn't have any security footage of what happened, you'd say that was negligent on their behalf and that was silly on them. But yet down the road we can have a massive cattle station with usually more dollars worth of gear stored there, and yet so frequently not a single camera or security measure is in place at all whatsoever. Not even a lock on the door, because when the house was built it didn't have locks. There's no locks on anything. And don't get me wrong, 100% that should be the case. You should be allowed to have your place fully unlocked and not have to worry about it. But unfortunately, the state of the world that we live in at the moment, particularly in some specific areas of the country, and it's not just the Northern Territory, we work and cover every single aspect of agriculture across all of Australia and New Zealand, and we have done for the last 10 years, and there is nowhere that's immune. There's some really tough places for sure. Obviously around Alice Springs is doing it really hard at the moment. Anywhere that's relatively close to a main highway is very, very bad. There is nowhere where I've heard of like, oh no, it's fine. Like everyone's really honest around here. If you're in a regional area, there's going to be some trouble. And it's up to us that own the properties, those of you that actually manage the properties and run them, it's up to you guys to actually do the right thing to protect it. Now that goes for putting the cameras up, putting security measures in place, a process that people call territorial reinforcement, which is a fancy word for making the place look like someone lives here and really cares about the place, and if you come in, you're going to get in trouble. Now that's making your place look like it's a harder target than old mate down the road. I don't want him to get robbed either, but guys, if you had to choose between the two of you, which one are you going to choose? So what we want to do is make your place look like it's the hardest place in the area to target. It's like that old story about outrunning a bear. You don't have to outrun the bear. You have to outrun your mate, and then you're going to be good, because the bear's going to get him instead. So what I want to see is like your place really well protected, and then you can pass my business card on to your neighbour so that he stops getting robbed as well. All right, so first up is fuel. We've really got to make sure that fuel's protected. And I want to talk about the exact way to do it. And I've got slides that go through, but they're not really relevant to fuel. They're more relevant to a big general picture. But at the moment, fuel is everything. For a lot of guys, back where I'm from on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, if they run out of fuel, well, or they got to pay more for it and they might be able to get it. But out here, if you run out of fuel, a few guys that I've been talking to, and I spent a lot of time in Western New South Wales last week, where if they run out of fuel there, it's not a matter of like, oh, I'll just pay a little bit more for it, we'll be right. No, the BP was telling them, no, that we don't have any to give you. It's not a matter of like, oh, maybe it's $3 or $4 or $5. Like, okay, I'll factor that into my operational costs. No, it's now I can't do the process or the operations that I needed to do for my next task. So it wasn't a matter of like, is this going to cost me a bit more? It's more of a matter, am I even going to be able to do that thing? Do I have fuel for the trucks, fuel for the machinery, fuel for the choppers? It's a yes/no question rather than like maybe. So what we want to do is make sure it's done right. So what I don't want to see is anyone putting a security camera, whether it's a Landwatch camera, obviously the choice camera, or if it's a different type of camera, we don't want to see just a camera from a distance looking towards the fuel. Okay? Write this down. If you want to see something, actually see it properly. I don't want to see that a white Land Cruiser pulled into my property and drove near my fuel tank, because that proves nothing. I want to see that a white Land Cruiser with a guy with a trucker's cap that said something on it, pulled up, he got out of his car, he grabbed the hose and he put it right there in the tank, because now I can prove that he's the one who took my fuel. And then there's a much bigger chance that he's going to get caught. If he took a substantial amount, there's a bigger chance you're going to be able to get something back. If it's worth doing right, isn't it? So when it comes to fuel monitoring, we want to make sure that we're actually seeing the point where they're putting the fuel in the car, okay? Too many times we'll talk to the police and you say, oh, did you get him? It's like, we can't prove it. All we can prove is that he came in and as far as he said, he was a bit lost, pulled up near the fuel bowser, checked his phone, oh yeah, that's where I meant to be going, and drove out again. Useless, completely useless. And if you've spent good money on doing something that doesn't do a job, then you've wasted good money. Okay, and the other thing I want to talk about, guys, is Stock Squad. Now, it's a big issue back home. We have a fantastic Stock Squad that is dedicated to rural crime. And here in your state, unfortunately, in the Northern Territory, you don't have that, and that's an issue. That's an issue that we need to push really hard, but it's not just a magic fix that all of a sudden they're going to make a Stock Squad for you and have dedicated rural crime prevention teams like they have in New South Wales and Queensland. And where that comes from is accurate reporting. Every single incident that happens on your property, if it's not something that you've allowed and that you want to happen, needs to be reported. I'm talking every killer, every trespass, every bit of fuel that you think's gone missing, every animal that's disappeared needs to be reported, and it needs to be reported instantly. And I know that's sometimes hard because you get the stock in, you realize, hey, there's quite a few missing here, but I haven't seen them for a fair few months or a year. But you got to report it. The reason for that is because if it's underreported, it's under-resourced. And they can't put Romy and the NTCA team who are passionate about trying to get a bit of a Stock Squad going, again, they can't put any sort of argument together if the government and the police look at it and say, oh, there's not really that big of a need for it, because everyone just takes matters in their own hands. What we need is accurate reporting of every event that happens, every bit of rural crime that happens, because then we can have the right resources put towards it and make sure that it's not happening. Unfortunately, a lot of people think the best course of action is to hide a camera somewhere, and then we'll get footage of them, and then we can go and attack and try and get them like it's some sort of Australian version of Yellowstone, which would be great if someone made that, wouldn't it? But in truth, in reality, in all of Australia, and especially in this state in some regards, if you take matters into your own hands, you'll be in more trouble than the person who did the crime. Far more trouble. So it's really not worth doing. What we want to see is that person get caught and get punished the appropriate way. And for that, we need evidence. And we need evidence that a suitable team can take and do something with. So that's what we're really keen for. So I'm going to try and finish up a little bit early so we can have questions. But overall, we've got a stall out there with a bunch of gear on it where you can see some of the technology that we use in order to do this. And we've been doing it for 10 years across thousands of properties. It's not new gear that's being used at all, but what it is, it's equipment that's being used by a team of passionate people like myself and my brothers that want to be out on these properties and actually install equipment that's going to do the job right so we can protect places. I've got a cool little pointer here, so I'll run through my slides so you can see. What have we got? Lack of reporting, obviously huge. Types of crimes that happen. I just had someone this morning come up to me and say, livestock theft doesn't happen. Like, there's not really cattle theft, is there? And they were here at NTCA questioning whether or not cattle theft actually happened. And that's half the trouble, because it's not reported. It's not spoken about in media. It's not adequately resourced because it's not really known about. And the amount of times I have to tell people that no, cattle duffing is a serious thing. It actually happens. And not just one or two. Sometimes I'll get a call from someone in Victoria that's really worried they lost 2 head of sheep. And I say, that's a shame, but like that's not a huge problem. They're not that expensive. They're worth a little bit at the moment, which is good. But then I get calls from sort of more top end. They say that it's hundreds and hundreds or maybe thousands that they've been losing. And it's a serious, serious problem. But like the girl I was speaking with this morning, nobody knows about it because it's not spoken about and reported. One of the issues with that comes from the fact that a lot of the properties up here, the ones that you guys run, are corporate owned. And therefore to report such losses sometimes is not very good for the old bottom line of the corporate. And because of that, they just sort of swept under the rug. Now, we don't want to talk about that because that would make it look like we're not running a fantastic business like we say we are. But unfortunately, with that has its flow-on effect, doesn't it? That then if it's underreported, it's under-resourced. Fuel theft, as we spoke about, machinery and vehicle theft, property damage, arson and trespassing. All things that need to be addressed and need to be monitored as much as possible with the appropriate camera. Now, what do cameras actually do? So on these places here, we put some cameras last year. The main idea is that you should be able to have a property anywhere in the country, no matter how big it is, and know exactly when someone's on there. If you were in town, around here in Darwin or something, you had a house up the hill there, then there's a good chance you'd be able to put a couple of cameras on there pretty easily and know, okay, if someone crosses my boundary, I want to know about it. But then you take that out to 1 or 2 million acres, and then say, okay, I want to know when someone's on my property. It's definitely doable. What we do first is we scale it back to the main areas, those main roads in, because we want to create such a presence of cameras that it becomes a deterrent factor, that they know, as I said before, that place is the hardest one to hit. And if we can do that on the main driveway and then work out from there, well, then it creates a bit of a presence across that region, across that area, that, okay, that station or that property is definitely protected. Let's move on and go to somewhere else because look, this guy down the road, he's completely left the door open, fully unprotected, way easier target. You got to remember, these are criminals we're talking about. They're pretty lazy. Hence why they don't have a real job. All right. So as you drive home, remember that fuel prices are going to come back down because Albo promised they would. So we don't have to worry about it. But just in case, let's protect our fuel, please. Even if you've got one of those fobs and passcode ones on your property, they're fantastic. I recommend people getting that. Let's at least have a camera there so we can watch when old mate did do the fob or did do the passcode to take the fuel out, that it was actually going in the right car. I've had too many stories where they're like, yep, I know where all of it went. And they check back through the footage and we can see, okay, hey, look, there he was actually putting it in his car or a different vehicle or a mate's car. So a few little things to check. And the other thing is, when you're driving home, think about, what am I actually worried about? You're all here now. A lot of you have staff back at the property, then that's all good. But if all of you are here and there's no one there, what area are you actually worried about? Is it the firearms that are stored safely, all according to code, I'm sure? Is it the workshop, which is completely left open with an angle grinder sitting there that could easily cut through the gun safe? Or is it the fact that your fuel is completely way out of sight and someone could get there from the road without ever going past the house or quarters? So you'd never actually know if someone got there. We had someone call up the office this morning. The guys back home were telling me that it was actually the machinery that was out throughout the property, close to the road. Someone came in and drilled through the bottom of the fuel tank and drained out all the fuel. And that was 200 or 300 litres, not a huge issue, like not a huge cost to them. Now they've got to replace a fuel tank, and now what that machinery was out there to do can't work. It's not going to work until they're able to replace that fuel tank. So that was that downtime. But mainly, guys, if you can walk away from this knowing that there's a camera that can protect your property, and it doesn't matter how big, how remote, that's not an issue anymore. Connectivity on your place, obviously, it's not an issue anymore. We can put a camera wherever we need to put it. So it doesn't matter where you want to go. If you want to just be able to watch the dogs because they keep barking and you're freaking out at night what they're barking at, we can put a camera there. Or if you want to watch that back set of yards, which is 30 k's away, because someone came in there and did some pig shooting around the place and disturbed everything, we can put a camera out there too. But there is no issue about where we can put it. But if you can walk away remembering that it's a little bit cut off on the bottom, deterrence is key. The idea is not to catch someone. There's fantastic videos out there that you can watch and get all prepped up as if you're going to be Jason Bourne, and go out there, or maybe John Dutton if you prefer, and catch someone in the act, or meet them at the pub and then teach them a lesson because they don't mess with me, I'm too tough, I'm Territorian. But then you end up in prison hanging out with his mates that are already there. But deterrence means you've got a presence there that says, hey, this is my place, don't come any further. If you do, I'm going to have a record of it. I'm going to have an alert dinging on my phone so that me and all the boys are actually waking up right there and scaring you off. And I'm going to have a big sign there that says, this is my place, go somewhere else, please. So if you've got any questions, I'll happily take some, but I know we're running behind time. So thanks very much for having me. I'll see you out there for drinks later on. Cheers.